In a clash of worlds, a young American man is mysteriously transported to an ancient civilization buried deep in the jungles of Mesoamerica. There he meets Aaliyah, a stunning woman slowly falling under the control of Mizcal, a terrifying otherworldly figure with glowing eyes and fanged teeth. As tension rises, strange chants echo, memories fade, and danger creeps closer. The hero must confront a force older than time to rescue Aaliyah before she's lost forever. Fast-paced, mysterious, and filled with eerie twists, this story unravels a haunting truth hidden beneath ruins, where every step could lead to salvation or disappearance. My name is Callan, and this happened when I was 24. Back then, I shared a weathered adobe house with two other people. The village we lived in, tucked deep in what is now southern Mexico, was surrounded by thick jungle and carved stone ruins from a forgotten civilization. We were students, sent here for archaeology research, but honestly, we were more drawn by the thrill of something ancient and unexplained. One of my roommates was Aaliyah, a cheerful, bright-eyed girl from Colorado. She had this calming energy, always wearing a woven necklace she said was blessed by a shaman. The other was Harrow, a quiet history grad with a journal always in hand. He didn't talk much but studied the ruins more than anyone. Everything was normal until that man arrived. He said his name was Mizcal. None of us invited him, but somehow he was just there. One night, we returned from the excavation site, and he was sitting in the courtyard, roasting something over our fire. Tall, with a face that looked too long for his head, skin that stretched too tightly over his cheekbones. His eyes glowed faintly green even when the fire dimmed, and two sharp teeth overlapped his bottom lip like they didn't belong. We asked if he was from the nearby village, and he just said in a strange rhythm, "You called. I came." Aaliyah thought he was just a local eccentric, but I noticed Harrow writing faster in his journal that night. I didn't sleep. For the next few days, Mizcal never left. He didn't sleep in a room, just sat outside in the dusk like he was waiting. Every night, the jungle got louder, birds screaming at nothing, and smoke would drift from the ruins even though no one was there. Then Aaliyah started changing. She became quiet. She'd sit by the fire with Mizcal, whispering in a language I'd never heard before. She stopped eating with us, her skin turning pale like moonlight. I tried talking to Harrow, but he wasn't in his room. The bed was cold, the journal was gone. That night, I heard chanting. I stepped into the courtyard and found Mizcal standing barefoot on the stone tiles, Aaliyah kneeling before him. Behind them, Harrow's journal lay open, pages fluttering in wind that didn't exist. I grabbed it and ran back to my room. Inside was a drawing of Mizcal, older than ink, carved into stone centuries ago. Underneath, a warning: he feeds not on flesh, but memory. I ran back outside and shouted for Aaliyah. She looked up, confused, like waking from a dream. Mizcal turned slowly, his mouth splitting into a grin too wide for any man. I didn't think. I threw the necklace Aaliyah wore into the fire. It lit up with a strange hiss, and Mizcal screeched, not loud but deep. It made my bones ache. The ground cracked beneath him, and he vanished in smoke. Aaliyah collapsed, sobbing but alive. Harrow was never found. They say he may have wandered into the jungle. I think Mizcal took him. The next morning, I burned the journal. Aaliyah left the country a week later. We never spoke again. That house still stands. People say it's cursed, that sometimes at night you can hear footsteps around the fire pit, even if no one's there. I never went back. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see him standing there again. Those eyes, and that grin that was too... The scent of smoke lingered in the air, faint but unmistakable. I don't know how long I'd been walking, but the jungle around me had changed. Trees taller, roots wider, and the birds silent. My feet hurt, but something urged me forward. I remembered Aaliyah's voice calling out from the temple's dark corridor. Her eyes shimmered with confusion, as if she knew me but couldn't place why. That's when I saw him again, Mizcal, leaning against the stone gate, his two emerald eyes glinting under the moonless sky. He didn't speak, he only watched. Then the air shifted, cold and thick like the breath of something ancient. That's when Tomas emerged from the shadows. His chest rose and fell fast, dust coating his skin, spear in hand, though he never used it to strike. He wasn't like the warriors here. He was like me. I met him yesterday, though he claimed we'd crossed paths before. Said we were fragments from a broken past, scattered across timelines like sand through fingers. He'd once been pulled here too before escaping, barely, but now he was back. For her. For Aaliyah. As we moved deeper into the ruins, carvings on the wall seemed to shift when I looked too long. Shapes morphed, eyes blinked, symbols pulsed faintly like they were alive. I told myself it was just exhaustion. Tomas didn't look tired, only determined. We reached the plaza by dawn. The villagers were gathering, chanting in a language I couldn't fully grasp, but my body understood the rhythm. It pulled me closer, like an old song I used to know. Aaliyah stood among them, dressed in white, her gaze blank, mouth moving in perfect sync with the others. A priestess, old, sharp-faced, veiled in crimson, watched us arrive. She knew we didn't belong. Her fingers tapped a rhythm against a stone bowl filled with what looked like sand. With each beat, Eliah's shoulders stiffened. Her hands trembled. Mizkal stepped forward, no longer silent. His voice, low and thick like smoke from wet wood, spread across the plaza. He welcomed us, but I felt the warning beneath every word. His smile twisted unnaturally, revealing the twin fangs that had haunted my dreams since that night. He spoke of balance, of sacrifice, of how the stars would fall if what had been taken wasn't returned. His hand reached for Aaliyah. She didn't flinch, but Tomas moved, fast, silent, and stood between them. The plaza froze, chanting stopped, even the wind held its breath. Then everything broke. The villagers turned, not angry, not afraid. Their eyes glowed faintly like Mizkal's. One by one they began moving toward us. Not running, just closing in. Tomas grabbed my arm, whispered one word, cenote, the sacred water. He said it could cleanse what had been bound. We ran, through halls that stretched and twisted, through chambers that echoed with voices not our own. I heard Aaliyah behind us, stumbling, crying, confused. But she followed. Mizkal didn't chase. He didn't need to. His voice was already in our heads. The cenote was hidden beneath the Temple of Teeth, named for the carved stone jaws that formed its entrance. It wasn't a name meant to scare. It was a warning. The mouth takes what enters. Tomas went in first. I helped Aaliyah down. Her skin burned with a strange heat, her breath shallow. The moment she touched the water, she screamed. Not from pain, but like waking from a long nightmare. I looked up. Mizkal stood on the edge, silent once more, watching, always watching. Tomas whispered something under his breath, a prayer maybe. The water shimmered, then rippled outward like a heartbeat. A sound like thunder cracked above us. Light exploded from the pool, brief, blinding. When I opened my eyes, Mizkal was gone. The villagers, silent, wandering, no longer glowing. The spell, if that's what it was, had shattered. Aaliyah collapsed in my arms. Tomas sat nearby, breathing heavy. He wouldn't say it, but I saw it in his face. This wasn't over, not for him, not for her, and definitely not for me. Somewhere out there in the deep roots of this forgotten world, something still watches. Something waiting for us to forget, to sleep, so it can return. Tomas barely slept, neither did I. The jungle outside the old stone chamber hissed with wind and insects, but inside it was silent. Aaliyah rested, finally. Her breathing was steady, but her fingers twitched as if chasing something in a dream. I traced the carvings on the wall. They spiraled into a pattern too perfect to be just decorative. I remembered what the old priestess whispered before the village emptied. One life awakened will always lead to another buried. Tomas wouldn't explain what she meant. He only stared deeper into the darkness of the room, like something was still watching us. In the morning, it felt colder. Strange, considering the jungle heat. We didn't speak much as we moved. Tomas led us northeast, toward an abandoned village he claimed once held a sacred observatory. It sounded like myth, but after everything, I stopped doubting him. Aaliyah followed behind, distant but more aware than the night before. Her voice came back slowly, word by word. She remembered pieces, a chant, a tunnel, eyes. The path narrowed, trees leaned in. The further we walked, the less natural everything looked. Stones set in patterns too clean, roots bent away like they'd been taught to grow that way. Then we saw her, a woman, alone, standing in the middle of the clearing, her back to us. She didn't move when we called, didn't flinch. Her name was Azel. She said it before we even asked, said she had been waiting, but not for us. Her voice was smooth, slow, like water running through bones. She spoke of the stars, of time folded like leaves, of a gate that opened only when remembered. Tomas asked how she knew about the observatory. Azel laughed. She said she built it. None of us answered right away. Aaliyah gripped my wrist. I felt her tremble again, not from fear, but recognition. Somehow she'd seen Izel before, in dreams, maybe in whatever place her mind had been trapped. The observatory wasn't what I expected. No dome, no telescope, just an open circle of stone columns, carved deep with glyphs that pulsed faintly in the shadowless daylight. Izel stepped into the center and told us not to blink. When the wind stopped, so did the world. I heard humming, low, metallic. Then something shifted in my vision. The stones weren't stones, the carvings weren't ancient, they were maps. And the circle beneath Izel's feet started to move. Not physically, but like a reflection warping on water. Aaliyah gasped. Her feet lifted an inch off the ground, though no one touched her. I reached out. Couldn't. My arm wouldn't move. My chest felt too tight. Tomas shouted something, but his voice was buried under the hum. Then, silence again. Aaliyah dropped to the ground, breathing hard, her eyes opened, fully, clear, and terrified. She whispered one thing. It's not just a place. The observatory was a seal. Not to look out, but to hold something in. Izel smiled as if that was the point, said the stars no longer aligned the way they should, that the old ones would stir, that our presence here had already shifted the balance. Tomas turned to run. I couldn't blame him, but when we looked back, Izel was gone. The observatory darkened, not visibly, but in feeling. It felt like standing in the eye of something enormous, something breathing. We didn't stay. By nightfall, we made camp near a river. Tomas lit a fire. Aaliyah sat quietly, fingers tracing the dirt like she was still seeing the glyphs. No one spoke of Izel again. But when I closed my eyes, I saw her, in the dark, under stone, smiling. And now, even back home, sometimes the air feels too still, like something ancient is listening, waiting to be remembered. I don't remember falling asleep. One moment I was watching the fire flicker, the next I was staring into the canopy, soaked in morning light. Tomas was gone, so was Aaliyah. For a second I thought maybe I dreamed the entire thing, but the dirt on my hands told me otherwise. Their footprints led deeper into the jungle. I followed. The vines seemed to lean in closer now, like the forest itself was listening. A breeze passed, carrying the faint scent of something sweet and earthy, almost like dried flowers pressed between ancient pages. I heard Aaliyah's voice first, faint, repeating something. She was kneeling by a stone mound, fingers brushing its surface like it was fragile. Tomas stood beside her, holding what looked like a bowl made of obsidian. The mound wasn't just a ruin. It pulsed. Not visually, but I felt it, like my heartbeat had to sync with it. Tomas looked at me, then at Aaliyah. Neither of them spoke. When I asked what they were doing, Aaliyah turned slowly. Her eyes weren't scared anymore. They were calm, focused. She said she remembered now, that this place wasn't lost. It was waiting. The mound opened with a low grind. Beneath the soil, a staircase spiraled down into darkness. I didn't want to go, but my legs didn't agree. Each step echoed louder than it should. We reached a chamber lit by nothing, but everything was visible. Symbols on the walls shimmered like wet stone. In the center, a large slab floated inches above the ground. Aaliyah stepped toward it and placed her hand on the surface. The air thickened. I felt a pressure behind my eyes, like memories that weren't mine trying to crawl forward. She whispered a name, not hers. Not anyone I knew. Tomas knelt. I couldn't move. My feet stuck, not by force, but by something deeper. A knowing. Izel hadn't lied. This wasn't an observatory. It was a vault. Not to keep something out, but to hold something in. Aaliyah began chanting, low and steady. It wasn't English, maybe not any living language. The symbols on the wall glowed in sync. One by one, then flickered. The slab dropped slightly. A crack formed in its center. A light spilled out, not blinding, but cold. I felt it in my spine. A voice, not sound, but presence, pressed into the room. Tomas stood and reached toward it. He didn't flinch. I tried to call his name, but the words never left my throat. Then silence. The glow faded. The slab sealed. Aaliyah collapsed. Tomas stood still, hands trembling, as if whatever had touched him hadn't left. He turned, looked through me, said the gate had opened for only a second. Long enough. We climbed out. The sun was lower. Time had shifted again. Aaliyah woke later, quieter. She couldn't explain what happened, but she said one thing. Some things aren't meant to sleep forever. Now, even back in my apartment, I wake at 3:17 every morning. Not from a sound, not from a nightmare, but from that same cold pressure behind my eyes, like something ancient is remembering me too. I didn't expect the dreams to return. Not after I burned the journal, Not after I left the dig site behind and swore I'd never speak to Aaliyah or Tomas again. But they came back. Vivid, slow, layered like a fog you can't step out of. This time, I wasn't in the jungle, I was underground. Carvings surrounded me, moving slightly in the stone. A girl stood nearby, someone I didn't know. Her dress looked like it was woven from sand and smoke. She whispered a date, 432 BCE, then smiled, not with warmth, but with certainty. I woke with dirt under my fingernails and the scent of copal on my pillow. At first I tried to explain it away. Stress, memories overlapping. But then Finn called me. He'd been researching satellite scans from our trip, found a second chamber below the one we explored. He asked if I wanted to go back. I said no. Then the line cut out. That night I found a stone in my apartment. Black, smooth, palm-sized. I knew I hadn't brought it back. I knew no one had been inside. I texted Alaya. Her response was a single word: return. So I flew to Oaxaca again. Everything felt quieter, like the air had been holding its breath since we left. Finn met me at the base. He looked different, tired, thinner, but alert. He didn't ask why I came. We both knew. We hiked for hours. The forest had swallowed our old trail. Birds watched from the canopy, still, as if listening. The second chamber wasn't far from the first, just beneath the old slab, hidden by a natural fault line. We descended slowly. This one wasn't empty. Bones lined the walls, arranged deliberately. Finn said they were offerings. In the center was a stone table, different from before. Embedded in its surface was a circle of polished jade, pulsing slightly, as though breathing. Finn placed his hand over it. I warned him, but my voice came out wrong, too slow, off-key. He touched the jade and everything went silent. Light warped. The walls shimmered. Something old filled the space, not a presence, but memory itself, too dense to ignore. I heard voices, not around me, but through me. Names, dates, warnings. Then I saw the girl again, the one from my dream. Only this time she wasn't made of smoke. She reached toward Finn, her hand brushing his forehead. He gasped once, then stood completely still. I moved toward him but couldn't cross the room. My body resisted. The chamber didn't want me closer. The girl turned to me. Her eyes weren't cruel, just endless, like looking into the past itself. Then she vanished. The jade cracked down the center. The walls dimmed. Finn collapsed. I carried him out. His eyes stayed open, but he said nothing. Not then. Not ever since. Back home, he just draws circles all day, over and over. Always 13, never 14. I haven't slept in 3 days. Every shadow looks familiar. Every mirror reflects something behind me. There are truths older than stories. Some still remember. After the incident in the second chamber, I didn't fly home right away. I stayed at a small inn just outside the village, surrounded by ceiba trees and wind that never stopped moving. Finn wouldn't speak. He stared at the wall, blinking slowly, mouthing something that never turned into sound. The local doctor said he was fine physically. I wasn't so sure. One morning, he walked out barefoot and didn't return until dusk. He handed me a bundle wrapped in banana leaves. Inside was a clay tablet with symbols none of us had seen before. The innkeeper's daughter, a quiet girl named Isa, told me her grandmother had spoken of this shape before. Said it meant a crossing, but not the kind you walk. That night, I dreamt of fire. Not flames, but smoke dancing in patterns, repeating the symbols on the tablet. When I woke, I could still see them faintly in the mirror. I took the tablet to Tomas. He hadn't been part of the trip, but he knew the ruins better than any of us. He studied the markings, then placed a single finger over one of them. He told me the word meant return, but not in the way we think. He said it's what the ancients carved when they believed someone's soul had left the world but hadn't yet chosen where to go next. Finn whispered that same word in his sleep, over and over, return. By the 5th day, Isa stopped coming to the inn. Her father said she was sleeping too much, talking in Nahuatl, a language she didn't know. I visited her. She was pale and restless, mumbling about a gate with no doors, only breath. She reached for me once, then froze, her eyes wide as if seeing something behind me. I turned, nothing there. But the air was thick, like the space between two thoughts. I took the tablet to the river that ran behind the site. Tomas said water binds the worlds, carries memory between them. I placed the stone in the stream. It sank, then shimmered. The current changed direction, just slightly, just enough to notice. Later that night, Finn spoke, just one sentence. I followed the wrong name. I asked what he meant. He looked at me, then past me. His voice was distant. She wasn't Issa. I remembered the girl in the chamber, the one I saw in my dreams. I looked through my old journal, pages half burned, ink blurred by time. I found a sketch I didn't remember drawing. A face. Not Issa's. Older. Familiar. Watching. I left Oaxaca without saying goodbye. Finn stayed, said he felt closer to her there, said the whispering was quieter near the trees. Back in Chicago, I keep waking up at 4:32 a.m., the time she gave me, every night, same minute, and each time I swear the mirror fogs from the inside. Some doors were meant to be left buried, some names not spoken aloud.